We are live on Facebook. Thank you, Sarah Jackson, for joining for the Seeds Storyteller Facebook Live Fridays. We are going to dive into a conversation with my brand new soul sister, SJ, Sarah Jackson. And before we do that, she's going to check in with you guys while I share this to my Seeds page. So go for it, Sarah.
Yeah, so Sarah and I were talking, which, by the way, I think she has a phenomenal name. And we learned together the difference between the Sarah's spelled without an H and then Sarah's spelled with an H. Sarah's without an H. We love you, clearly. Your name means princess, but Sarah's with an H, like our names are spelled, means the princess. So that's what Sarah and I have in common. We are the princess. But I'm just really excited to be here on a Friday, and I'm actually going to a yoga class after this time with y'all, and I know that you guys might have other plans for after our time together, maybe a happy hour, maybe going to the gym. You can let us know what you're about to do.
Yeah.
Maybe you can join me at yoga. That would be real. Cool.
Where are you going? What yoga studio?
Yeah, it's a yoga studio. I can't remember the name. It's a restorative yoga, though. So I've never done a yoga like this before, and I'm really interested to see how it is. But I can drop the link in the comments, too.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah, so peeps, tell us what you're up to on this happy hour, at least happy hour in our time zone. Here in Denver, Colorado. And if you guys are joining us live or on the replay, I just want to start and tell you guys a little bit about what we're going to do. This will last about 30 minutes. And this is called the Seeds Storyteller Series. And all this is about is having an opportunity to shine a light, to put a mic up to people that I know and love and respect, and asking them to share their stories with us, what they're up to, who they're serving, why they're doing it, and know that our intention, our big intention, in addition to putting this mic up to our beautiful soul sister Sarah's mouth and hearing her powerful voice and passion around her work as founder of Casa de Paz here in Colorado, but it's also about you. And so we invite you to listen to her story and be inspired by it, absolutely. And please lean in figuratively and actively to her story and find ways to stoke the fire of your own. Making a difference, being connected with people feels good, but it takes some time and it takes some intention to cultivate, and not everyone does it. So we are here to try to stoke that fire in each other and in you. So pay attention to what captures your attention on this call today. And our goal really is that this is building a movement of people that are committed to use their gifts to light up the world together. And my name is Sarah Davison-Tracy, founder of Seeds of Exchange. And I have information about Seeds and Casa de Paz in the write-up. So we're going to not get into all of the links and all of the details about that, because I really want y'all to hear Sarah's story. So check out the write-up and go down the Sarah Jackson or Sarah Jane. We're both SJs, by the way. Sarah Jane, DT, our Vortexes. Yeah, the SJ.
You're from Texas?
Oh, no, I thought you said SJs. No, I have a drawl whenever I talk to people from Texas, though, so people always think I do.
I like it. I'm from Texas, though.
Oh, and I need to, besides silence your cell phones, just kidding, I need to close my email. Pardon me, y'all, chiming in. And as we go, if you would comment, pop in questions, pop in things that you don't understand, that you don't agree with, that you are challenged by, that you're uncomfortable with. And Sarah and I, we're not going to respond during the live, but we will respond after, and very much want to have this be a conversation that's interactive and has ripples for as long as we can follow them out. So private message us, comment below, like emoji away, and we're going to dive in. So as you guys know, for those of you that have been following, we always start these Facebook Live conversations with a moment to take a pause. I call them in my books a place of pause or a pop. And Sarah and I are going to do that together because we each have a couple cool little way to do that we hope will feel really good to you on this Friday afternoon and kind of fuel your evening in the rest of the day to come. So if you can, if you are not driving, if you will take a moment and kind of relax, maybe like settle into your seat and plant your feet on the ground. We'll cultivate a little yoga, pre-yoga for you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And take a couple deep breaths. If you can, close your eyes again, if you're not grocery shopping or driving, and just take a moment to be still. So my question is, what do you need today to be still in this time of being? What do you need to let go of, to surrender? If you see it and know it, imagine handing that thing off or seeing it floating away on the clouds. If you don't know what to surrender just now, just imagine your next exhale releasing what burdens you. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. And breathe.
And one of my rituals for finding peace in a chaotic world is also by breathing. And I have a mantra that was taught to me by my therapist. And when you breathe in, you repeat the words "in this moment." And then when you exhale, you repeat the words "all is well." So on the inhale, we think in this moment. And on the exhale, all is well. So no matter what craziness we just came from or are headed into in this particular moment, I have all that I need to be well. I have my health. I have breath in my lungs. I have my family. I have my faith.
Thank you. All right, you guys. Hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. I wrote those, and because I need to practice them, I need to be reminded all the time about the importance to breathe and to repeat things like Sarah just reminded us that help to bring peace in chaos and in the crazy that we all have in our lives. So we're going to dive in to a conversation with Sarah Jackson, founder of Casa de Paz, brand new, incredible soul sister of mine that I'm just grateful and honored to know you. And I'm really excited to share you with my peeps and to connect with your peeps that are watching. So for those of you that don't know about the extraordinary Sarah Jackson, I'm just going to read a little bit about what Casa de Paz is, and then we're going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes hearing the why of it. How did she come up with this incredible idea? How did she create it? How is she fueling it? How can we be a part? And I do want to mention at the front end, immigration and detention and it can be a really charged in a political heady sort of space conversation. And what I want to invite us to do is to have this conversation from a human, like single human being sort of conversation. And there's not a political agenda here. This is about caring for people in our world that are in a place of desperation. And I profoundly believe that it is not a political move at that moment. It is an act of love that I think we must do more of because it's calling for us. So please, let's kind of cut through that political stuff that can divide us and come together at a this deep kind of brother, sister humanity sort of place. So Casa de Paz began in 2012 as a small 1-bedroom apartment. Your apartment, right?
It was.
Yep. Offering hospitality to families separated by immigrant detention. Their work has always been to host families whose loved ones are being detained and individuals who have recently been released. In 2017, they moved into a larger rented house with more space so they would not have to turn people away. Today, Casa de Paz provides visits and emotional support, shelter, meals, access to phones, Wi-Fi, computers, and transportation. Detention is a difficult time that tears families apart and creates a financial burden. So they have always offered their services for free. Since they first opened their doors, they've hosted over 1,600 immigrants, and the need only continues to grow. So, thank you for this work, for sharing your story with us. And I want to start by asking you, with that incredible umbrella of kind of a context for Casa de Paz, what's the reason that you started it? What's the why of Sarah Jackson and Casa de Paz?
My family.
Okay.
I mean, even now saying that I don't know why I'm getting so emotional already. It's the first thing I'm sharing, but I am so close to my family.
Yeah.
And when I imagine being separated from them or not being able to be with them or see them or hug them or talk to them, it devastates me.
Right.
And when I imagine other people going through that, I mean, it's happening right now in my backyard, that there are families that cannot be together, that want to be together. Mm-hmm. And if I was in this situation, or if my family was in this situation, then I would want kind people coming alongside of me to help me get back to my family and have the ability to see them again. And so as a person who tries to take my faith as serious as I can, I very much believe in treating my neighbor as I would want to be treated. And so that's why I do this, because it's important to me. My family is important to me. I also want to be treated.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to point out, I love, just to loop back to y'all that are watching, there's so much that comes to us in our purpose on the planet from the things that we love the most. So I just love, Sarah, that your connection is, in this work of Casa de Paz, it comes from this love and passion for your family, and connecting those dots as you did to be able to provide what you love to strangers that are now part of your family, I think is amazing. So will you talk a little bit about kind of one of the big seeds, as I understand it, that was planted for you when you went to Mexico? When was that? What was that? When was that trip?
In 2010.
Okay. So can you tell us how that, what brought you there and what you did there, and how that kind of seeded the work and your vision for Casa de Paz?
I was lured to Mexico with words, all expenses paid trip. I was actually working I was working at a church in Colorado Springs. Our pastor was actually the person who was invited to go down to the Arizona-Mexico border to learn about immigration issues. And he was not able to attend, but I was his assistant. And so I saw the email invite, and those words, all expenses paid trip, popped out at me. And I was like, sign me up. I'll go to Mexico.
Yeah, totally.
I seriously thought it was like a vacation. And so I went down there thinking that I would, have a pina colada on the beach or have a nice tan. It was ridiculous, but I'm glad that I thought that, because otherwise I would have never gone down there, to be honest. But when I went down there, my eyes were opened, and for the first time in my life, I met people who were really affected by our immigration policies, by immigrant detention centers, by the border. And it was no longer just this thing that I heard about on the news or that I read about. It was like a real person sitting across the table from me, telling me their story of how they were just deported or how they were coming to the United States seeking to be reunited with their families. And I couldn't forget what I had witnessed. I could not stand idly by. I knew that I wanted to do something. And that's where it all began for me, right there on the border.
Wow. Did you have like a hint of what is now Casa de Paz when you were down? Okay. So just give a couple of, just because I think it's so important. And I love hearing the moments where people like you who are doing amazing things, like the stuff that happened before you are doing what you're doing now. And how did you get here? Can you take us along and kind of explain some of the pieces that helped you clarify the work of Casa de Paz that you're doing now?
So when I knew right away what I was hearing did not sit well in my gut. I just knew there was something wrong about the way that people were being treated. I didn't know what my part was going to be in that, though. So I came back to Colorado Springs, and I just did as much research as I could on the subject of immigrant detention and family separation. And I knew in my inner being that something was going to change, but I didn't want anything to change because I was really comfortable in my life. I thought I had it all. I had a great place to live, a great job, a great car, a great group of friends. I had arrived. And so for about a year, I just said, no, because I didn't want to change. But then finally I got tired of saying no. And so I moved from Colorado Springs up here to Aurora, where the Immigrant Detention Center is located. And I just was here for about 1 year before even I knew what I was going to do. I just wanted to be kind of in the thick of it all. And I just stayed here, and I started realizing what are some of the needs that are not being filled. And having a hospitality home for families who were separated was not something that Denver had. And so I said, well, might as well start it.
So you just started inviting people to come to your home. You would go to the detention center at 6 p.m., right? When they release people.
Yeah. Well, originally the concept was for families to come and stay in my apartment who were driving in from out of town. So these are families that had a loved one locked up in the detention center and had just flown in from Texas or maybe driven in from New Jersey. They came to visit. So the original concept was for me to host those families in my apartment. And then as things progressed, a couple of years down the road, we realized another need was a home to receive immigrants who had just been released. And so we do that as well.
Okay. So two things, like I had goosebumps like crazy that I want to point out, that there was this season, like a year, you said, of like this inner no, of like almost intuitively knowing that this work, what it would cost, that it would make you uncomfortable, that there was almost like having, am I ready? Am I willing to let go of this very, what did you call it? I have arrived here, and leaving that for something else takes, well, it's totally foolish on some people's estimation, and totally where it's at on others. So for people watching, I mean, that I do believe, I talk to people all the time, all over the world, who are serving and loving and working in the arena of human rights and human justice, and it always costs. I mean, I do believe, and there's also so much, it's like, also the stuff we're made for. So it's like there's a cost, and then there's, I believe, exceedingly more that we get filled up by. But I just think it's so important to be reminded that it's normal to feel like, no, I don't want the cost. I don't want the discomfort. I don't want. So what I want to know, like back in that, what was something that helped you decide in the year of no to decide, actually, I'm going to go to Aurora and, say a yes? Was there a moment for you, or how did that work?
There was sort of a moment. I mean, on a very practical level, I was just getting really tired of driving back and forth all the time and spending all that gas money.
Right.
And I just was annoyed that I kept having to fill up my car with gas. I was like, might just move up here. And then also I was also very excited because I knew that you know, even down on the border that first trip, there was something that said, okay, your life is going to change. And so I was excited to see. I was tired of saying no.
Yeah.
So I was more excited to see what it over my excitement at that time overwhelmed my fear of the change that I was running from.
That's awesome. And the other thing I love about your story is that there's just, especially in the high, when we zoom out and see the macro view, you know, the steps that it takes. I mean, it's not hours or days, but it's, you know, sometimes months and years to figure out like the next thing. So I just love the series of the ways your story shows us and reminds us that we that's all we can do is one step or one move at a time, and then the next step will be revealed when we get there.
Well, and honestly, the whole post-release support for immigrants leaving the detention center was not a blip on my radar. It was not something that I was thinking strategically, oh, and then we can do this a couple years down the road. It was literally, I got a call from one of the guards at the detention center who had found out that I was hosting families, and he asked me if I could come pick up a woman who had just been released because she didn't have any family here, and her family lived in Mississippi, and she didn't have a car, she didn't have any money, she didn't speak any English, she was completely alone and vulnerable, and she was being released from the immigrant detention center. She had won her asylum case and now she's free, but
where had those folks been going before the casa? Like just walking, like
wandering around, and the detention center is very close to East Colfax, and so it's not a very safe place to be if you're in a vulnerable position. And so, you know, the other kind of saddening thing to think about is that there are hundreds of immigrant detention centers all across the country, and there are only a handful of people doing post-release support. And so I know people who have been released from detention centers who have had all of their belongings stolen from them as they've been trying to figure out how to get to the bus station, or they've been asked to do some things that would get them back in trouble with the law, but in a moment of desperation, what are you going to do? And so I'm just really thankful that we have a community of people who care enough here in Denver that will do something about it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit. So our community of Seeds of Exchange is partnering up with Sarah's community of Casa de Paz to do a month-long fundraising kind of drive and campaign and our goal is $1,500 to buy 6 plane tickets for folks that end up at Casa de Paz, but they need a bus or a plane ticket to get home. Can you talk about why that's important? Can you educate us on, for those that don't know, why a plane ticket or a bus ticket is important, and how else those folks would be getting home, and, you know.
Yeah.
And for those that do want to donate, the link is in the write-up, and we would so love $10, $10,000. The whole gamut is welcome, and it all makes a difference together.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I think to just share one of the stories of one of the guests who stayed with us a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
He was picked up from the detention center by our volunteers and brought here to Casa de Paz. And we began having dinner together, and we were discussing, how are you going to get home to your family? You know, should we look for a bus ticket or a plane ticket? And his eyes kind of filled with a little bit of panic because he realized that his family had no money left. They had just paid his bond to get him released from the detention center, and there was no money left to get him home. And it wasn't just, I mean, not to downplay it, it wasn't just, oh, we haven't seen, you know, our dad for, you know, a few months. This guy was getting back to his family to meet his son, who was born while he was in the detention center. He had never even had a chance to meet his baby boy. And when we saw that he was concerned, like very gravely concerned about, how am I even going to get home so I can hold my baby for the first time? We just said, hey, look, we know this is important. We know that you need to pretty much get on the next flight so you can get home to your wife, first of all, who had a baby without you there, and then your baby son. And so we got our Casa credit card and we found him the next flight. You should have seen his eyes light up because, yes, clearly he missed his wife, and he actually had 4 other children, U.S. citizen children, who he had been separated from for almost a year. But to know that he was going to hold his baby boy for the first time in just a few short hours because we were able to get him a plane ticket. I mean, you would have thought we had just handed him $1 million, which I think would probably, that holding his baby was worth more than $1 million for him.
Do you stay in contact with this fella? Do you stay in contact with them after they head home? And did you see pictures of him holding as a baby boy? And
I didn't see any pictures of him holding his baby boy. He showed me pictures of his wife who was pregnant, but a lot of our guests do stay in contact with us. Just this week, our volunteers in the morning, they receive a group text to know who's on their team, and then it was a way to stay in contact with one another throughout the week. And so I think on Monday, we had a team of volunteers help 2 gentlemen reunite with their families, and our volunteers sent pictures of those 2 guys reunited with their families and sent it to the group text. And so we're able to stay in contact like that. A lot of times we become friends on Facebook, or we stay in contact through WhatsApp. So I have friends now for years now who stayed with me in the tiny little 1-bedroom apartment when it all first started, and we've just grown to be friends.
Oh my gosh, so cool. Well, one of the other things that I want to make sure people know about you is, besides giving money to this Facebook fundraising campaign that we're doing for these 6 plane tickets, there's so many other ways. Can we just ping people with volleyball and the volunteer? Like, could you do a little bit of, besides money, how can people that live in Colorado and outside of Colorado support the Casa and about the Volleyball International bit? That's so cool.
Yeah, so we are 100% run by volunteers. We don't have any paid staff. I have a day job. All our other volunteers have their day jobs. And then in our off time, we do this because we know it's the right thing to do. And so we have different ways to volunteer. We have companion volunteers, and those are our volunteers who go to the detention center, pick up immigrants who have been released, bring them to the Casa, help them communicate with their families to get them a plane ticket or a bus ticket, and then finally bring them to the airport or the bus station. We also have volunteers that bring meals throughout the week so our guests can enjoy something healthy and delicious. We have volunteers who come to clean, volunteers who come and organize our garage of donations. We also have volunteer teams that you can participate in remotely. So we have an admin volunteer team to help respond to emails or create RSVP forms or promote events that we're doing. There's a lot that you can do remotely. But one of the things that you can only do here in the Denver area is play in our volleyball league. So about a year after I started Casa de Paz, I had already run out of all my money. I had no money left, and I needed money fast, and I needed it desperately. And I love to play volleyball. And so my friend told me, you know what you should do, Sarah? You should start a volleyball league, and you should charge people to play in that volleyball league. And then at the end of the season, whatever profit you've made, you just turn around and donate it to the Casa, and you use it to pay your rent and your utilities and your internet. And I thought he was crazy because there are a lot of other volleyball leagues to choose from, but I decided to give it a shot. And I'm glad I listened, because now Volleyball International, on average, we have anywhere between 60 and 70 teams playing every season. And 100% of the profit is donated to the Casa. We've got very beginner leagues people can join, very advanced leagues where we all think we're divas and we're going to the Olympics. We also have drop-in games, so you can just show up and play 1 week and then take a couple weeks off. And so those are all different ways that and I forgot, we also have a visitation program that you can volunteer to be a part of. So for the immigrants who are locked in the detention center, we have visitors who go in and just spend time with them. We're not legal advice. We're not a social worker. We're just a friend. And so these are people who are detained who either have been transferred to this detention center from another detention center, and their family's in a different state, so their family isn't here, or maybe they are from the Denver area, but their family is undocumented. So their family cannot go in and visit. Just this morning on our Facebook page, I received a message from a gentleman who reached out and said, hey, my brother's been locked up for 3 months. I can't go visit him. Could you guys go and just provide him with companionship? And we said, absolutely. So our volunteers go almost every day of the week. We've got groups that go in the morning. We have groups that go in the afternoon. We have groups that go in the evening. And we are, we have this phrase that we use, which is to ease the isolating experience of immigrant detention, one simple act of love at a time. And so we have our volunteer trainings the very first Saturday of every month. And at the end of those trainings, you'll be equipped to plug in however you want to plug in.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So whoever is out there that's spontaneous and doesn't have any plans tomorrow, we do have our volunteer training, and you can reach out to me and I'll give you all the info. It's tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at Mount View United Church in Aurora.
Okay. Thank you. That's awesome. And you guys, if you have any questions, because we have a ton of information in our write-up, please enjoy diving into the many, many things that Sarah is up to. But if you have any questions that aren't handled there, please message us and reach out, comment away, and let's keep the conversation going. But before we wrap up, Sarah and I want to just together, as this deep commitment to really stoke the fire in each other's lives of paying attention to what it is that you heard today. Just one thing. I would be curious, and I would love for you to comment below, private message us, share it with a live person in your life of what was there something that you now want to think differently about, you want to do differently? Do you want to show up and volunteer? Do you want to donate to our Facebook fundraising campaign for the Casa and those 6 plane tickets? Do you want to do it all? I mean, please check all the boxes. We love it. But we really, really are committed and believe that if we don't move the inspiration and the, awesome person that Sarah is and sit back without leaning in and engaging and doing something about it, then we aren't changed, and we don't get to be part of the party of change making, of making a difference, of loving people, of serving people that are in desperate need of support and love and companionship, and treating them how we would want to be treated. And the other thing the seed we want to plant is, you may have gotten like some hit of inspiration and connection in how Sarah was a couple of times talking about the different things that brought her to do what she's doing now, that may connect to your story and have nothing to do with giving money or donating time to the Casa, but just had like an aha moment in your own life of what you want to do anew. Maybe some dots were connected in your story. And if so, that is amazing. And please, same thing applies. Comment below, tell a live person about it this weekend so that they can remind you of of the aha and of the commitment, because otherwise those seeds don't get watered and they don't grow into the incredible flourishing plants, trees, whatever's that they're supposed to be. So before we wrap up, I want to ask Sarah what's one thing that you want to leave our friends with? One last encouragement, or Sarah something.
Oh, well, it's intense, but I think the thing that just popped into my brain was a story that one of our volunteers told me a few months ago. And his name is Greg, and he's been a volunteer for a couple of years. And he told me about this experience he had of dropping off a gentleman who had just been released from the detention center. And Greg got him all the way where he needed to go to his final destination. And it was a 20-minute ride. That's all Greg did. A 20-minute ride from the detention center to his next stop. And on their way over there, the guest looked over at Greg as they were driving, and he said, "I will thank God for you every day of my life." And I believe that guy. I believe that he will thank God every single day for this tiny little act of love that Greg was able to be a part of with this guy. Like, it was a 20-minute ride. This is not brain surgery, but for this gentleman to feel the love, like, radiating from Greg, like, it'll stick with him for the rest of his life. It doesn't have to be big, like, humongous acts of love. It can be small. And sometimes those are the most important ones.
Yeah. Because otherwise, if we wait for the big stuff, sometimes we don't ever do it because we feel like we need to wait to do the game changing, change making thing. But versus 20 minutes of a ride. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, y'all. So please, let's keep the ripples of conversation going. If you don't know about the Casa yet, we have all of their social media handles in the write-up. Please find, friend, follow, do all the things with Sarah and her incredible team. And please stay connected with us and tell us what is being stirred and what is being ignited in you because of this incredible soul sister, Sarah. Thank you so much. And to all of you guys, I want to close with that reminder that you are loved. You belong, we belong to each other, and let's stand tall together and light up the world. Have an awesome weekend. Thank you, Sarah Jackson, Casa de Paz.
Yeah.
Until next time, peeps.
Bye.
Bye, guys.